I imagine myself laying down and there's bills, there's dollar bills, and I'm holding them against my face. I'm Claudia.
And I'm Luciana.
And this is Where We Land, a podcast bringing you stories of immigration and multicultural identity.
I've been just getting over our time together, Claudia. That was so fun.
I know. It was so nice having you over, you and your daughter, your little baby.
It was so fun.
It was fun, but I think you left me with a souvenir.
Oh, yeah.
You left me with a
Sorry.
cold.
Yeah.
I blame your daughter. She stuck her hands
fine,
in my
though.
mouth.
She's totally
Aren't all babies fine? Aren't they all fine? They like sneeze on you, they're fine, and you're sick. Like that's how babies work.
I'm fine too.
Yeah, you never get sick anyway. I'm prone to sickness. We know this already. Okay, so before we begin, as always, you can write to us at wherewelandpod@gmail.com if you want to share your immigration story, if you'd like to tell us a culture clash that you've experienced, or if you'd like to just share your favorite piece of culture from back home or from the US, write to us. Once again, our email is wherewelandpod@gmail.com.
So today's episode is about starting over again, career-wise. Just how sometimes when you immigrate to the U.S., you have to take a step back, possibly a few step backs, maybe take an entry-level role, even if you had a lot of experience in your country of origin, your country you were back home. And that is for a greater gain, but sometimes it's inevitable. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes you just really have no choice.
We talk about Scrooge McDuck.
Car seats. Too.
Car seats, movie theaters.
Very fun episode.
Sandals, New York City streets, germs. It's all in there. Check it out. Coming up next. Okay, so let's start with Culture Clash Flashback. This is a culture clash that we have experienced. The one I want to share with you guys today is New York City footwear. So I know it doesn't sound
it's
like
wild.
Something.
No.
It? Okay,
I know where
understand.
you're going with this.
Yeah. So in Peru, we lived on the coast, so it was a very beachy vibe, right? We're talking flip-flops, open-toe sandals, like that. What sneakers? That was our vibe. I had these really, really gorgeous sandals, like where like the sole of the shoe is like really narrow and very, like nice. And then I come to New York with all these sandals and I'm like, yeah, NYC, people have told me the summers are really hot. Like I'm going to be able to whip out all my sandals. I whip them out and then I look at the New York City sidewalks and I'm like, no, my feet need protection. My feet need to be protected. Because in Lima, you walk around in your flip-flops, you walk around everywhere, and your feet are just out there because, like, Lima sidewalks are fine. I've sat on Lima sidewalks. Like, you sit at the curb. If your hand accidentally touches the sidewalk while you're sitting at the curb, you're fine. If my hand accidentally touches an NYC sidewalk, I would grow a third arm.
Yeah, like, I get it. Like, there's just way more elements.
Like the bacteria and the feces and like the hot trash. Like you need protection from these things. Your feet can't just be willy-nilly out there in these streets. Like they need, first of all, you're walking everywhere. In Lima, we had cars. So since you're walking everywhere, you need a sturdy shoe. And then because of all like the elements, let's call them, your toes can't just be accidentally touching something. You know? You need a wide shoe.
I get it. I get like where you're going with this. New York, we love you. Your streets are rough. It's like, it's dirty out there. There's a lot of trash. There's a lot of rats.
I mean, I never understood Birkenstocks till I moved here. I was like, why do people like Birkenstocks so much? I don't think they're not very aesthetic. Like they're not, they're not elegant.
Because people love them in California too, and it's a different vibe. I think like people love Birkenstocks for
well,
other reasons.
I found use for them here.
I do have to say, like, I thought you were going somewhere else with this.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, I know where you're going with this. That took a turn. I thought you were going at like, because New York City footwear impressed me in that like, oh yeah, you're really walking through the city. Like, you watch something like Sex and the City back in the day and they're walking around in these glamorous stilettos. No one can really pull that off for like more than a block. So if you're being like if you're taxiing everywhere, or you're like, okay, I guess being dropped off at the door somewhere, sure, I'll pull out a stiletto. But if I have to like hustle down the subway or like, walk a few blocks, that's not happening. So I would see a lot of women when I moved, just wearing very comfortable shoes, and then get to the office. My friends that were lawyers were like, oh, I have my stilettos under my desk. So I just get there.
Or the shoes in the bag.
Or the shoes in the bag, or like whatever. So, yeah, I thought that's where you were going, but okay, sharp turn.
Okay, what's yours?
Mine is lack of car seat use in Peru. And this was when I was living in Peru, I was very unaware that this was a thing. I didn't have kids, whatever. Now in the US, I have kids. Like, they will not let you leave the hospital unless you have your car seat properly installed. They go and verify that you are putting your newborn in the car seat for you to leave the hospital. That is my experience here in the US. In Peru, that is not happening. I'm sorry.
No.
I think
people aren't purchasing car seats in Peru. Not really.
I don't know the stat, but it must be like 0.5% of people that use car seats. Like, when I travel over there, like, I bought car seats and have them there in our family's cars, like in my sister's car that I use when I'm there or whatever. But I would try to get a car to like pick us up from the airport or whatever, and like have to order it like way in advance and make sure it had a car seat. Of course, it was going to be the wrong car seat, but like, it was such an ordeal to get like a taxi or something that had a car seat, because all of my friends not really using them. It's just like very it's just like it's not, I guess, like anywhere in the law or obligatory. And I understand like there's probably like less. It's obviously also, Peru is a poor country. Like, obviously there are other things on the priority list, but it is such a like so important and crucial for safety that I'm just like surprised, but not surprised, but just like, wow, this is they're just going.
But I think it's interesting that like even a car service, like you mentioned, doesn't readily offer them.
Yeah.
Because that, when you're talking about car service, you're already talking like the economic barrier you've already crossed it, right? You're already talking about people that can afford car service. And the fact that that customer with like that customer with money in Peru isn't demanding it of the car service. Right. That's interesting.
It is
that definitely, it was such a weird thing for you to ask for it. Yeah.
It is definitely cultural. I know that there have been countries that have done campaigns for it with a brand to like incentivize it. Don't really think that's happened in Peru, or not at a large scale.
Not that I'm aware of.
But crazy. It's really dangerous, but that's just how they roll.
I mean, I never sat in a car seat my entire life, I think that's just how we were raised. And I think Peru is still doing things that way. Yeah.
Moving on to our topic of the week. Today we are going to talk about career and having to start all over again when you immigrate to the U.S. Possibly getting a job that's below your experience level, or just like lesser title than what you had before. Maybe take a pay cut. Really just something that most immigrants experience when they come to the U.S. Professionally. When we spoke with Dr. Nancy Foner, she told us many immigrants have to do this, or well aware that they have to do this when making the move to the U.S. And, it was certainly the case for me and many of my immigrant colleagues at NYU when we were applying for jobs out of grad school. A lot of us had work experience in our countries back home that didn't really transfer as well when we were, leaving grad school. It was just like it's almost like, you have to be willing to, go back a few steps, maybe get a first entry level. Like, it was, just like something hard that you had to do. But it was under this understanding that was, at least for us, like grad students, was very much in the short term. You take a few steps back, but the career growth opportunity in the U.S. was a lot larger. So that's kind of the mental exercise that you did. But it did like not feel good to like,
of course,
have to do it.
I think it's interesting that you bring up our interview with Dr. Nancy Foner, because I remember when she talked about it, she explained how, it happens to most immigrants, like not just those that are coming, like, you came for grad school, so you came specifically looking to grow your career.
Right.
But there are other people and other people come for jobs, etc. But even those like immigrants that are forced to leave their countries for XYZ reasons, you hear it all the time. I think Dr. Foner mentioned like, oh yeah, someone was like a college professor in their hometown and now they're a cleaning lady, or someone used to be an architect and now they're like, a doorman. And so that is a very common story. And in that episode, I think what was so interesting was that Dr. Foner explained, like, she gave several reasons. She mentioned like
language.
One reason being, language. You're not proficient in English, so you can't really translate your skills here. The other one was there's no way of proving like your experience or expertise. Like no one can just call up a reference and be like, because you don't even speak the language, etc. And then the other thing that she mentioned that was really key was that as an immigrant, you don't really have a network in the United States. So even if you're like this kick-ass architect from some other country and you come to the US, and even if you do like speak English well enough to like handle yourself in the professional world, how are you supposed to get a job as an architect? We all know that like to get a job, you need to put yourself in front of people that can give you a job.
Right.
So how are you supposed to get a job as an architect if you don't know any architects here, if you don't know anyone that works in that industry here? Like, that's really difficult to navigate.
I think like a lot of the value of graduate school actually, or any school, it is because you get to build a network. Like that was definitely shared with us. When we were, when I was a student, like it is an opportunity to build a network with the professors, with other students, with the university to kind of use their networking capabilities. Otherwise, it is really, really hard. And even if like as an architect, say you get.
I love that that's our go-to profession. We're architects.
Right.
An industry we know nothing about, but we're like, this is our example.
Even for me, explaining the roles that I had in companies that people had never heard of because they were in Peru. They were large,
and you're like, I worked for
Peru.
This really great company. You explain the company, and they're like, what are we talking about? A mom and pop shop, or are we talking about like what? And I'm like, no,
this is, and I would explain the stats. Like this company feeds like X% of the country. This is a CPG company that has X amount of business lines, X amount of revenue per year. But if it's a brand they don't know, it's just harder. It's a harder sell. Sell. So it is that is definitely a challenge. And I think another of these extreme examples, the common story of I come here, right? Maybe I was X, like a person was a doctor back there, but they don't, have licenses or credentials to work in the US and don't speak the language. Imagine, right? Like those are common stories that we hear. I read an extreme example a few years ago, I want to say like 2022, Washington Post article about like, this is an extreme example because it was the Minister of Finance for Afghanistan who had found himself in the US and was now an Uber driver. And he had been the Minister of Finance. And now he was grateful to be an Uber driver, but he really, like the article was more about how he had to like really start everything from his life, even ideology. Like I thought I was going to be living in Afghanistan and I was going to have a certain type of life there and people were going to get a certain type of life there. That went out the window. So at least he felt like
that story.
He was like, I feel lucky that I actually have this job. I can provide for my family. We are safe. But I used to be the Minister of Finance. And
I know, like, I remember that story. Like, he had to flee. He and his family had to escape because the Taliban overthrew the government that he was a part of. So they had to flee. And I remember, like, he had been part of like the rebuilding efforts of Afghanistan. Like he was a democratic government and he was like, a lot needs to change and reform. And you dedicate your life to that thinking you're going to help your country into like democracy. And all of a sudden it's like, well, no, gotta go. And now what do I do? Because that's also a very niche job. Like you can't just come here and be like, American government, hire me. You worked for the government of Afghanistan. We can't just hire you to do public policy. Like that's a very niche thing. So finding a job for him is going to be, incredibly. I remember I read he taught, I think he like part-time was teaching.
Yeah, I think he came
university.
Actually, like it was crazy because years before he had come to Washington, D.C., I think to speak. And now he was like, living in Virginia and Ubering in Washington, D.C. It was just like crazy, but you see that example time and time again of people that come that are qualified to do way more than what they're actually doing. And some, like my colleagues and I did, take a few steps back to then just grow more. But others really don't have that opportunity. And language can be such a big part of it, but also just the network is, I think, another huge part. Like, how do you go about? And now we live in an age where, okay, LinkedIn or certain platforms where you can apply, but it's still really, really hard to break through that barrier to get your foot in the door.
We've all looked for jobs. We've all been on those interviews. We know what it's like. We know how hard it is, even when you're like from here and you still, some people ask for like recommendations, or if you know someone, it's easier because then they can vouch for you. Like, we all know how that works. So I can't even imagine just like having none of that.
I have a few friends that come to mind that like came to do their LLM here. And it's like, then they ended up at firms that were like, oh, we would hire you for more, but you're really not a JD. So maybe you just have to do law school. And like a lot of them did law school in the US. Like, it was just like, you have to just prove much more. And I get it for some things where it's like, hey, you have to get certain credentials or certain things, but it's just
or there's a mandatory license or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, you have to do the bar here. Okay. I think they're all well aware of that. But it's just, man, kind of like, and it is all for a better opportunity. So like you at least you understand what you're doing, but man, that's rough. That's rough to do it all over again. I mean, personally, it was rough. And I have friends that like, when we were graduating, were like, all right, I'm being offered these jobs at these countries because they do take into account everything that I've done in my country of origin and where I've worked. Or I could take this job here, like possibly grow more, but like, I'm out, and they would leave, and I get it. Valid.
Because it is true. So if people don't understand, like, the long-term growth opportunity is just market size, right?
Yeah.
Like in the United States, most markets are so much larger than they are in other countries because other countries are smaller, a smaller GDP, et cetera. So your long-term growth potential for your career is much, much higher. The ceiling is much higher.
And compensation.
But in the short term, like, I have a friend who has worked in finance her whole life, and she had to take an entry-level job after she did her MBA. She did her MBA at Wharton. And then she was like, I either go back to Peru and like roll in the dough in Peru, but in Peruvian dough, which once again has a cap. But still, you roll in the dough in the Peruvian, in Peru, or I take a job in New York in finance, but I start entry-level.
Yeah.
And like, I start entry level as like a 30-year-old woman alongside like snot-nosed 20-something-year-olds that don't even know how to like create like an Excel sheet properly.
So many people experience this thing, and it's just like, but like, you are also like so happy that you get to do it. It's just, there's a lot of mixed feelings in there,
There are a lot of mixed, because I have gone through, now she's on the other side because years have passed. This happened a long time. Like, she did her MBA a while before the pandemic. So now she's on the other side of it, and she's like rolling in the New York dough, so she's happy. But I love this image of the rolling in the dough.
This is now rolling in dough.
Rolling in the dough. I feel like a little piggy just rolling in my dough.
Like, right? Wasn't this?
I imagine myself laying down, and there's dollar bills, and I'm holding them against my face.
This is Donald Duck kind of swimming in the in the pool.
Swimming in the coins. In the coins.
In the coins.
Oh, in the coins.
In the gold coins.
Which, I'm sorry, but how did he not injure his face? Like, he would dive into gold coins.
That is the magic of Disney.
I guess.
Yeah. I also feel like there were bills. Was he not like also swimming in bills? Or was that later?
Maybe, but they were decorative. It was a mountain of gold coins that he was diving into and spitting them out. Remember, he would come out and go, and they would come out.
Anyway, so that, then this, and now this is a wrap. This is almost like age related, because it's like, I'm getting cum.
Bury me in my dough.
Like, hold on, I need to lay this. Oh, my leg's falling asleep. Let me lay like this. This is age.
We're geriatric is what's happening. Yeah. We're geriatric, but now we have money. I was having this conversation with a friend the other day where he was saying like he was being very patriotic. And he was like, I don't understand why people automatically think like moving back home is like such a negative thing, or it's like whenever someone says, oh, I'm moving back to Peru, and people are like, oh, why? What happened? Like they're worried. And he's like, why is it so negative? Like, because he made the choice to go back.
Yeah.
And he was like, I never wanted to stay in the States. It was just a place I wanted to like work for a few years, get that experience under my belt. And he's like, and then go back and live in Peru, where it's like, I'm happy.
Just go back home. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's such a personal choice.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess some people, like the people that are asking, like, what happened, I think it's because everybody does know that even though, like, you might make this sacrifice, everybody does know that there is more opportunity, as you say, for market, for compensation, just growth. So I think that people automatically think, like, well, if you went and did that and, like, put in the work, why wouldn't you stay? I think that is.
Yeah, but I relate to that, not with the US, but I relate because when I went to I did grad school in London.
Yeah.
And I knew from the get that I did not want to stay in London.
Right.
I just knew it. As I was applying to universities abroad, I was like, and then I will come back to Peru.
Right.
Like, I just know.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I do remember all that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when I was in London, everyone was constant, and I interned there and everything. And people were constantly asking me, oh, so you're doing this internship because you want to like then get a job or like,
right.
And I'm like, no, I'm leaving. I have a plane ticket already bought. I have a return flight home. I'm not staying. And people in Peru, when I was there, people would always say, oh, how come you didn't stay? What happened?
Yeah.
And I was like, I executed my plan. Well,
right.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah. So I also relate to the feeling of just knowing with certainty where you want to be.
Yeah.
And of course, we're talking from a place of being able to choose, which is very different from like, oh, I'm forced immigration or not being able to choose necessarily where you land, like people that are evacuated from war zones or refugees, etc.
Like the example that we just gave for the
that's a much more difficult situation. You just end up where you end up in the country that gives you asylum, and then you're like, well, I'm planted here now. This is where I have to make a life. What's it like here? What can I do here? And that's very difficult.
I am reminded of, like, again, the network aspect being such a good way to kind of get your foot in the door. Like, if there is like any like advice or anything, I would say like the working your network. Even like, actually, here we are. This is such a good full circle. When I came to New York for the first time, I did this NYFA, New York Film Academy course, and, networked there and met Phil Wolf, who helps us out, edits our podcast.
And I like it when people call him Philip.
Almost 20 years later, here, like, this is a network, a tiny little network that we had from our class.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years later, here we are working together. So
any little
you can start
space helps.
Any little space helps. That will help and will help in the future, and it can really help.
It can pay dividends for sure later down the line.
Yeah,
I think it's also much easier to network when you're younger.
100%.
Because you can network at a party.
Language.
You can network over drinks. You can network anywhere. Like, you meet people when you're young, when you're in your 20s, you meet people everywhere. Like, you turn around, you're meeting someone.
Yeah.
And I think it's much more difficult when you're already like in middle age or older.
And I think people are more open to, young people are more open to connecting with other people. Not that older people aren't, but it's just like, I think it is just a trait that young people have. Older people may be like, I have my friend group, I have this, I don't have time for new friends, or I don't have but young people are just more willing to, like, all right, like, I'll chat with you, they're just more open. They have less things going on at home. So
the youngsters are down for a good time. And if you want to be a part of that good time, you're going to be welcome. Like, anything for a laugh, anything for fun. Okay, and lastly, we have our current faves. This is a segment where we share our favorite piece of culture from either Peru or the United States. And I'm going to start with mine. I want to talk about New York City movie culture. This is my current favorite thing right now. Because growing up in Peru, specifically growing up in Trujillo, we would have very limited access to movies.
Insanely limited.
Because you need to picture this, you guys. So in this city, when we were growing up, there was one movie theater. It had 3 screens. One of the screens didn't work all the way. Like if you saw movies in that screen, people were cut in half. We never shared this. One screen, and we all knew which screen was the broken screen. But when your movie was showing there, it was like, it's either I see it in the broken screen or I can't see it. So you had to go in the broken
let's
screen.
be clear. This was not a real movie theater. This was probably someone's home that got converted into a movie theater. Let's just be real clear. There were no actual screens. I think the movies were projected on the walls. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It was the only thing we had available to us.
And it was wonderful for us. We thought this was the actual movies. We thought this was like the equivalent to an AMC. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was popcorn, right? And they only played like the blockbusters. Like like whatever, like Titanic, I think played the entire year. And that was what you had to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Shout out Cine Primavera. Shout out.
Yeah. So you couldn't really there wasn't a lot of variety of movies to choose from.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So living here in New York now, I feel like such a greedy little pig. Once again, I'm rolling in my movies because there's just so much to choose from. And I'm taking full advantage of it. So there's IFC Center right now is showing the Before Trilogy series. Like you can go any day and they show one after the other.
Wow,
all 3.
fun.
Yeah, which is actually an experience that I've done, not with this trilogy, but I did it with the Back to the Future trilogy. Because when I was living in London, it was like, I guess the day that he goes to the future took place in 2015. And so that day, this one movie theater in London showed all of them back to back. And my friend Lucho was like, let's go, let's spend the day in the movies and like do it. And I'm like, all right, because we were students and we're like, we have nothing to do.
Right.
So we just spent the day in the movie theater and we went back to back to back on all 3 movies. And I was like, I can quote every line now.
Right.
And so that was such a fun experience. And so I love that there's that kind of thing happens in New York. I also love like they have theaters like indie theaters like the Angelica, where I'm going to go on Sunday. I'm going to go see Sorry Baby, which is this new A24 movie that has been getting really rave reviews. Like, I love that I have
the array
access.
In New York. Also, like, let's be clear, like New York City, just, you have like experiential, you have indie, you have old fashioned, you have like, and I remember from my time
Revival,
there,
when they like.
You could just go and experience like any type of galore, just like anything that you would want.
I feel spoiled and I love it because anytime I see an advert for something, and they're like, only in selected cities or only this, I'm like, I know it's in New York.
For sure.
Like, I don't even have to look it up. I know when they're advertising something, I know that I have access to it. And I have never in my life lived like that. I am used to, like, in Peru, people were pirating things like crazy because there was no other way to access them. Like, they were never going to come and be shown in Peru. No one would ever sell it, like, import a DVD to even try to sell it in Peru because the market was so small. So if you wanted to see some things, people were like, I have to pirate or else I'm never going to see this thing. After living in that culture for so long, I'm like, I love that anything that comes out, I'm like, I can go see that, like physically.
I know. Yeah, it's wonderful. It truly is
the
wonderful.
best.
And also like amazing that you can still go to theaters, because I think like with the streamers too, like a lot of people are just watching it at home. And it's so different when you go. It's just so different. It's so good to go.
It's so different.
Yeah.
I love it.
My culture clash is adults on Hulu. Speaking about streamers, I mean,
Okay, tell me about this because I have not seen it and I've heard fun things.
It's fun. That's what it is. It's fun. They're not long episodes. They're 30 minutes, which is right up my alley right now because just time is of the essence. And
you love a good 30-minute sitcom. You binge those things like you candy. You just pop them in your mouth.
I don't actually. I was watching I couldn't binge it. Yeah, I just, again, time. So, but I would get to watch 30 minutes here and 30 minutes there. And it was so fun. Like you're just like, I'm literally laughing out loud. The casting is great. They're just, it is like, I feel like a blend between Friends and Girls, because they're like scrappy. They're like they're young adults who are doing things that I think anyone who's been
Like
a young adult
doing idiot things.
They're like just trying to like figuring it out and like trying to get through life and just it's doing their best, but also like being young and making mistakes. And it's really funny. Very well done. I loved it. It's highly recommended.
I'll check it out because that could be
and I loved
up
laughing.
my alley.
I loved laughing the whole time. I would laugh in every episode, and it was great. Yeah.
You know what? It's funny that you mentioned Girls because Girls is having its little renaissance among the youngsters. Like Gen Z is like binging it and loving it. Yeah. Like everyone is like fully loving the characters, which is such a like shock, but because when it came out, they were all heavily criticized, all the characters individually criticized as like whiny and like entitled. And I remember like Lena Dunham was like, yeah, that's the point. These girls are flawed.
I mean,
I
do think
mistakes.
These characters and adults are flawed in the best way. Like they're just so relatable to anyone. Like it's like kind of like you can kind of see a little bit of like, oh, this person is this. Like a friend that's like that, or someone. You could just totally really imagine that there's a lot of young people living in this way right now, and it's so fun, to just watch on screen.
All right. Yeah. You've sold me. I'm gonna watch it.
That wraps it up for today. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode and check us out on Instagram at Where We Land Pod. Ciao, ciao.
Hasta la vista, babies.
At Where We Land, we know some immigrant experiences are harder than others, especially for those in the margins of our current legal system. If you would like to help, we encourage you to support organizations that provide services for immigrants and champion their rights. You can find a list of organizations in the show notes.